Welcome to the Hair for Kids. This is Hannah from London, England, and I am thrilled to invite you to join us as we explore the fascinating lives of our Rebbeim.
Would you like to hear yourself on Der Hair for Kids? Just record yourself saying the intro, the outro, or answering a question about the previous episode. Send it to us, and your recording may be featured on a future episode of Der Hair for Kids. For more information and to know which wording to say, visit derhair.org/submissions. We hope you enjoy the episode. In the previous episode, we discussed the Alter Rebbe's marriage and his life in Vitebsk. In this episode, we will discuss the relationship between the Alter Rebbe and his in-laws, as well as his search for a place to learn Torah. The Alter Rebbe used to daven out loud, and for a very long time. He used to fast very often, and was not at all interested in worldly matters. The Alter Rebbe's parents-in-law didn't like how their son-in-law was conducting himself, and were very upset about it. Rabbi Yehuda Leib tried to reason with his daughter. "Sterna, my dear daughter, what has become of your husband? He davens all day long, he studies the secrets of the Torah, and he does all these strange things. I have never heard of serving Hashem in this way. I think he lost his mind, Sterna. You must divorce him." "No, Tata. My husband is a great tzaddik, and you can't convince me otherwise." Rabbi Yehuda Leib and his wife began to make life very difficult for the young couple, in the hope that their daughter Sterna would give in and divorce her husband. But as much as they tried, Rabbi Yehuda Leib and his wife could not stop the Alter Rebbe from serving Hashem in the way that he felt was right, and Rebbetzin Sterna faithfully stood by and supported her husband no matter how difficult the situation became. Rabbi Yehuda Leib didn't like the way the Alter Rebbe conducted himself on Friday nights. "I can't stand my son-in-law. Every Friday night he davens for so long that by the time he comes home from shul, we have long since finished our Shabbos Seudah. That's not a way to live. Shabbos meals should be celebrated together as a family. This behavior is completely uncalled for. That's it. I've had enough. The time has come to teach Reb Shneir Zalman a lesson. I have an idea. Every week, I always put enough oil in the lamps so that the light in our home can last until very late at night. And I also leave out food for my son-in-law to eat when he comes home. But this time, I will pour a tiny bit of oil in the lamp, and as soon as we finish the Seudah, I will lock up all of the food. By the time Reb Shneir Zalman comes home from shul, he won't have anything to eat, and he won't be able to see anything. That should put a stop to his strange behavior. He will finally learn to behave like everybody else." That Friday night, the Alter Rebbe davened Kabbalas Shabbos for a long time, as he always did. When he finally finished davening, the Alter Rebbe came home only to find that the house was completely dark, and that all the wine, food, and even cups were locked away. Rebbetzin Sterna was waiting for him to make Kiddush as she did each week. "Sterna, let's look for something that I can use to make Kiddush." They searched all over until finally they found a barrel of vodka in the corner of the room. The closest thing to a cup was a giant mixing bowl. The Alter Rebbe said, "I will fill up the bowl with mashke and make Kiddush on it." Because it is better to drink roiv kois, most of the Kiddush cup, after making Kiddush, the Alter Rebbe drank most of the vodka that was in the giant bowl. Drinking such a large amount of vodka at one time can be very dangerous, especially if the person doesn't eat anything right afterwards. As soon as the Alter Rebbe finished drinking, he started to feel very sick. "I must find something to eat quickly, otherwise I will probably pass out." "But where can I possibly find food if everything has already been locked away? The Alter Rebbe said, "We must look. Be'ezras Hashem, we will find something." They searched and searched for what felt like forever, until, to their relief, "Look what I found! Leftover kasha stuck to the sides of a pot." The Alter Rebbe scratched the kasha off of the pot and ate it, which saved the Alter Rebbe's life. Meanwhile, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Segal was in his room, happy with what he had done. He was sure that he had finally taught his son-in-law a lesson. The next day, he approached his daughter and asked, "So, Sterna, what ended up happening last night, huh? Your husband probably went to bed without making kiddush. Am I right?" Rebbetzin Sterna replied, "Actually, my husband made kiddush on a giant bowl of vodka. In that case, I bet he slept really deeply all through the night." "Not at all. After making kiddush, my husband stayed up all night, learning Torah by the light of the moon, since the lamps had already gone out." Rabbi Yehuda Leib was shocked. After drinking all that vodka, he stayed up the whole night learning? And without light? Wow! Now I see that your husband is truly a great and sincere man. And from that day on, the Alter Rebbe made a point to eat kasha every Motzei Shabbos to remember the miracle of how his life was saved. The Alter Rebbe used to study Torah and daven all day. His learning was so important to him that he didn't want to stop for a full meal for which he would need to take the few minutes to wash for hamoitzi and say the full benching. For this reason, he asked the cook in the house, who used to make all the food, to make him kasha, which he could eat without washing. The Alter Rebbe's mother-in-law said, "Why does my son-in-law deserve a special menu? I will not allow the cook to make separate food for him. Let him eat like everyone else." But the cook, against orders, would make special kasha for the Alter Rebbe while making sure that her boss would never find out about it. That's what life was like for the Alter Rebbe while living in the house of his in-laws. When the Alter Rebbe was 20 years old, he started thinking to himself, "Although I am learning a lot of Torah myself and teaching Torah to others, it really bothers me that I don't have a Rebbe, someone who can guide me in serving Hashem. I must find myself a Rav. But where can I go to find a Rav?" The Alter Rebbe found out that there were two famous places of Torah learning during that time. The first was Vilna. There were many great Talmidei Chachamim there, and the greatest of them all was the Vilna Gaon himself. The second place of learning was Mezritch, where the Mezritcher Maggid taught his Talmidim how to serve Hashem. I hear that in Vilna they learn how to study Torah, and in Mezritch they learn how to daven. I already know how to learn, but when it comes to davening, there is still so much I need to know. I think I will go to Mezritch. In those days, it was common for married people to leave home for a period of time in order to go and study Torah in a far-away place. The Alter Rebbe asked his wife, Rebbetzin Sterna, "Are you okay with me leaving home for a while to learn Torah in Mezritch?" She replied, "I am okay with you traveling to Mezritch, but I would like you to be back home in 1.5 years from now." After Pesach, in the year Tov Kuf Chof Daled, the Alter Rebbe got a horse and wagon and prepared to make the long journey to Mezritch. His brother, Rabbi Yehuda Leib, asked him, "Can I please come along with you to Mezritch?" The Alter Rebbe replied, "Of course, it would be my pleasure." The two brothers got into the wagon and they started their trip. They traveled for a while until they got to a place called Orsha, when suddenly the horse just fell down and died. The Alter Rebbe said, "This did not happen by accident. Nothing happens by accident. Tell me, Yehuda Leib, did you ask your wife's permission before traveling to Mezritch?" "Well, not really. I was so excited to come with you that I guess I forgot." "Oh, I should have asked her." "Aha! Now I understand why the horse just died out of the blue. Because you never got permission from your wife, you cannot come with me to Mezritch. Go back home, And when I come back from Mezritch, I will teach you some of the things that I learned there." Seeing that his older brother was right, Rabbi Yehuda Leib got out of the wagon and made his way back home. The Alter Rebbe thought to himself, "Now I have no horse, and I have no more money to buy a new horse. That means that I will have to travel to Mezritch on foot." So the Alter Rebbe walked the entire rest of the way to Mezritch, stopping to rest when he needed to, and stopping in different towns at night. Finally, his journey was over. "Baruch Hashem, I finally made it to Mezritch." The Alter Rebbe entered the Beis Medrash of the great Mezritcher Maggid. He looked around. Wow, this is amazing! The Maggid and his Talmidim are preparing themselves to daven Shachris with great concentration, thinking about the greatness of Hashem. The Maggid's Talmidim used to spend a lot of time preparing to daven Shachris. They would then daven Shachris at length, and then again they would spend time after their davening thinking deeply. "I have never seen such a beautiful davening in my entire life. But, on the other hand, it took them such a long time to daven. I'm sure that they will spend the rest of their time learning Torah." After they finally finished davening, the Maggid and his Talmidim began to learn together. But, to the Alter Rebbe's great surprise, just a short time later, the Talmidim closed their Sefarim. The Alter Rebbe was puzzled. "Why are you closing your Sefarim so soon? You have just begun learning." One of the Talmidim replied, "Yes, that's true, but it's already time to daven Mincha. Here in Mezritch, we spend a lot of time on Hisboinenus. Hisboinenus means thinking deeply about Hashem." Another Talmud chimed in, "Before each tefillah, we think about how great Hashem is and how much He loves us to help us daven with real feeling. Then we spend a long time concentrating on our davening. After davening, we think about how we can keep this special feeling of being close to Hashem with us for the whole day, even when we're doing regular things. Not only do we do this for Shachris, but for Mincha, Ma'ariv, Kriyas Shema She'al Hamita, as well as Tikkun Chatzos." For 2 whole weeks, the Alter Rebbe watched how the Maggid and his Talmidim served Hashem. He thought to himself, their davening is beautiful and so full of life. But, on the other hand, they daven so much, and they have very little time left to learn Torah. I also focus a lot on my davening, thinking about the explanations of the Arizal and the Sheloh HaKodesh. But still, the majority of my day is set aside for learning as much Torah as possible. The amount of time the Hasidim spend on davening is way too much for me. This is really beautiful, but it's not for me. I need a place where learning Torah is a focus of the day. I'm leaving." The Alter Rebbe packed up his things and prepared to leave. As he started to leave, he suddenly remembered. Just a second. I'm missing one of my belongings. I must have left it in the Beis Medrash. I'll have to go back and get it. The Alter Rebbe returned to the Maggid's Beis Medrash for what was supposed to be a quick stop just to pick up what he left behind. As he was about to leave for the last time, the Alter Rebbe looked around and was astounded by what he saw. A man walked into the Beis Medrash holding a lung of an animal which he brought to show the Maggid. "Rebbe, I had this animal shechted for me, and when I examined the lung, I saw that something is wrong with it. Please, Rebbe, tell me, is this animal kosher?" The Maggid took a look at the lung and began to explain in depth why it was or wasn't kosher. The Alter Rebbe was amazed. Never in my life have I heard such depth and clarity in explaining Torah. Now I see that the Maggid teaches both how to daven and how to learn. If the Maggid is such a giant in Torah, I will stay here in Mezritch and learn from him. What would happen to the Alter Rebbe during his stay in Mezritch? To find out, please stay tuned for the next episode of Der Hair for Kids. Thank you for listening to Der Hair for Kids, where we explore the fascinating lives of our Rabbeim.